Good morning, friends. It's Tuesday, so that means it's time for Your Legacy Live. Okay, so as you've been keeping up, if you've been watching this as we go, we know we're talking about legacies. We know we're talking about how to prepare for different events in life, right? Some of the difficult times, but also how to create principles and guiding principles within your family to be able to secure and create this legacy of trust and a legacy that will propel and grow and influence your community and your family. So last week we talked a little bit about introducing why we're going to talk about exit planning in businesses. Today we're going to jump into a little bit about estate planning, because exit planning and legacy planning is a big umbrella, right? And there's different pieces to your legacy plan. And if you're a business owner, that includes your exit plan is kind of another way to look at your legacy. So starting today, what I'd like to do is just talk about some frequently asked questions where it comes to that niche piece of your legacy plan, which is your estate plan. All right, so we're going to talk about estate planning for the next couple of weeks, and particularly about certain tools we use within your estate planning to create certain experiences, right? Again, we want to focus on the big picture. We want to focus on the outcome of your legacy and the outcome of your estate plan, and not get too bogged down by the tools which are going to be covered, including your will. This is what we're talking about today. Today's all about what is a will. It's one of the tools we use in estate planning to help direct and create a certain experience for your loved ones and your family, and to guide your overall legacy plan. But we'll be talking about trusts. We'll be talking about power of attorneys. We'll be talking about limited liability companies, different tools we can use to create an estate plan that furthers your legacy plan, that furthers the guiding principles of your business and family, that kind of creates that experience you want for everybody involved, and everybody that you influence, and who's going to benefit from your legacy. So with that, just to introduce myself, I'm Todd Jarvis. I'm an attorney and a legacy advisor and an exit planning advisor, and look forward to this discussion today on what a will is and how it can affect and how you can leverage it to make sure your wishes are followed. Okay, so what is a will? A will is a document, like we said, it's one of these tools we use in estate planning, where you get to say who gets what and who's in charge of making that happen, right? So it controls your assets and the distribution of your assets after you die. All right, so in there you get to name who's going to manage your assets and make sure that all of your affairs are wrapped up. Right, you get to take control of that and name that person who's going to make that happen. And then also you get to name who gets what of all of your assets. All right, so someone that's named in the will to take control and to receive your assets, they're called a personal representative. Okay, so the personal representative is in charge of making sure that your estate is wrapped up and the assets are distributed to your heirs or your beneficiaries. So the people named in the will to receive your assets, they're called an heir or a beneficiary. And the will lets you take control of this and name exactly who you want to get what percentage or what specific items that and pieces of property or assets that you have. All right. Now remember, it's important that you have a will. Okay, a will is a tool that everybody should put in place. If you don't put it in place, then you're relying on the state, and it's a default will, a default plan. It's created for you. So if you want to take control of the situation and the distribution of your assets and who's doing that after you pass away, a will lets you take that control away from the state. Okay, so it's important to note that there are certain assets where the will won't have control over the distribution of those assets. This is where you have a surviving joint owner of an asset or assets that you have named a beneficiary, and that beneficiary is still living. So for example, on a retirement account or life insurance, if you have, let's say, your spouse named and then your children named as a beneficiary, then the assets will be payable directly to the living beneficiary. So if it says your spouse first, but if they've passed away, then your kids, well, your spouse, if they're still alive when you pass away, is going to get that life insurance money or the retirement account money. All right. No matter what your will says. If your will says, my kids get everything, well, your will doesn't have control over an asset, a life insurance policy, for example, that has a beneficiary designated on it that is still alive. So in this scenario where you've named your spouse as a beneficiary of your life insurance and your will says everything goes to my kids, well, the life insurance is not going to look at your will. Your will is going to have no control, so it's going to go to your spouse. And then everything that doesn't have isn't jointly owned by you with someone else, or doesn't have a designated beneficiary, then the will is going to control the rest of that. So again, it's critical that you have a will for your estate plan. You need to make sure that it's in sync with everything that's owned jointly and also everything where you have a beneficiary name to make sure it's working together according to your wishes. So you want to make sure if you own real estate jointly with your spouse or someone else, you want to see how that real estate's titled. And is it, if your wishes are in your will are for a certain group of people to get your assets, you want to make sure that the way that you own your property, the jointly owned assets like your real estate, that the way that you own those assets is in sync with your wishes in your will. Okay, so just make sure that's all working together. Anytime you have a conversation with an estate planning attorney or estate planning advisor, you want to make sure that your beneficiary designations and jointly owned assets and your will are all working together and in sync with each other. Also, for any property that's passing under the will, it's important to note that this will has to be filed with the probate court in your state where you're a resident when you pass away, and reviewed and approved by the court before that person you've named as a personal representative can act on your behalf, before they can gather the assets and start paying off creditors and start wrapping up your affairs. The court has to approve their appointment and authority to do that. So a lot of people think that that your will is kind of this magical document that covers everything. Well, you need to understand that it's actually going to have to go through the public probate process in order to be effective, right? For it to appoint someone to manage your affairs and for the distribution to happen, the probate court has to kind of oversee that. So I just want to make that clear. A lot of people want to have a goal with their estate plan and legacy plan to see that their family doesn't have to deal with the court after they pass away. Well, then we need to make sure we take other steps and use other tools in conjunction with your will to make sure that your estate bypasses and does not have to go through that court process of probate for everything to be ripped up. So in short, that's a will. A will gives you control over who gets your stuff when you pass away. And it also lets you take control in naming who it is that's going to have that authority to step in and to gather those assets and distribute them. Again, the will only controls any assets that aren't currently jointly owned by someone when you pass away and don't have a designated beneficiary on them. Okay, so if you have a financial advisor, make sure that your financial advisor understands your wishes and maybe works closely with your estate planning attorney so that they can work together to make sure that your whole plan works together. We'll talk about trusts coming up in the next episode or two. And when we talk about trust, we'll see how we're able to use a trust as a substitute for the will to keep things private and out of court, and how to maybe have control over all of your assets, if that makes sense. You can have your life insurance distribute to a trust and then have your trust control the distribution of those funds and different things like that. Okay, so that will be coming up in other episodes. Make sure to like, subscribe, share this video with anybody you think that's going to be very helpful for them and be able to learn from this. And also subscribe if you're over on YouTube, so you can get future updates. Again, we're going to be going through, I think it's the next 17 episodes are going to be talking about specific tools within estate planning. Because there's so many, and these are going to kind of be short, I'm going to go ahead and probably have and hold a couple impromptu episodes throughout the weeks upcoming. We'll still have the scheduled, Tuesday 11 a.m. Time slot for an episode, but I'll probably be doing some impromptu episodes and just going live here throughout the week at different times. I'll try to give a notice by scheduling those ahead of time, so you kind of see on social media that when these episodes are going to be and kind of what the next topic is going to be. We'll probably be talking about these frequently asked questions periodically throughout the week, because there's a lot of them, and I want to get through them and help you get those tools, because once we understand these tools, it's going to make our further discussions about exit planning with your business and contingency planning for your business and your family and legacy planning and creating guiding principles within your plan to support your family and to keep conflict and drama out of the situation anytime something unexpected happens, with illness, with death, with incapacity, or getting stuck on vacation, the kids are at home. All these things we want to talk about: how your business is going to continue to survive and provide for your family, how to grow your business and to create that value acceleration in your business. So all these things we're going to talk about. But again, these next 14, 15 episodes are going to be shorter, and they're going to be geared towards a specific planning tool or technique to kind of, again, create that foundation in the overall discussion we'll be having going forward. All right, so until next time, this has been great. Put your comments in the comments on the different channels you're on, and I'll get to them. I'll answer your questions and help you filter through these things, okay? All right, well, everybody have a great day, and talk to you soon.